10, good, good. Okay, now guards, you're gonna snake it. Coming off the screen, guards, you're gonna snake it into here. Get your shot. Bigs, you're gonna pop away to the corner and get your 3. Spence, pass from up here. Cool, here we go.
While others may rule against you and your body may fail you, you control your own story. This is the journey of Winston Yergler.
As long as I've been here, Winston has been hand-on with me with working out, making sure I'm consistent with working hard, staying dedicated.
10, good. Reject, guards reject, bigs pop back.
He's here probably, 16, 17 hours a day, and he's a full-time grad student as well.
Winston Yergler has been the graduate assistant for the Ball State men's basketball team for the past 2 seasons. But basketball has been a part of his life for as long as he can remember.
I've always just been around the game of basketball. Before I was even born, my parents were always going to games. My mom was taking me when she was pregnant.
The day that Robin gave birth to Winston and you have a son, first thing you think in your mind is like, all right, I got an athlete. Winston, from day one, he was the coach on the floor. He wasn't blessed with the most athletic ability in the world, so he had to be very cerebral on the floor.
Winston, his freshman year, went to Couts, and he was a good little basketball player at the time.
Freshman year, I was tiny. Basketball season came around, and we had a senior-dominated team, made varsity then, started varsity.
There was some probably unnecessary pressure, and unfortunately he played with a very senior-dominated team in a small town, probably looked at themselves and put too much pressure on him as a freshman too.
Wasn't the biggest fan of Couts. I wanted to be somewhere different, wanted my own place. My whole family had gone there, and I wanted something that was more me.
A lot of his better buddies at that time, being an only child, was in North Judson. So he wanted to move to North Judson, and so we looked into it, and we packed up and moved to North Judson as a sophomore year, and it was the best move we ever made. Because within an hour and a half of his first day in school, 9:30, he sent a text to his mom and I, and he just said, "Mom, Dad, thank you so much for bringing me here. I am so happy."
It was really fun to start. It wasn't until probably about 2 months in that I figured out there was going to be a law case.
Despite Winston and his parents' claims that the transfer from Couts to North Judson was for academic reasons, officials in the IHSAA began an investigation to determine his eligibility for the upcoming basketball season.
It wasn't for another month that things started coming out in the paper. And I remember that first article, I was in school, and I had one of my friends brought the paper to me. He was like, "Hey, check this out," and like threw it at me, and I was like, I had no idea about it. I was just really embarrassed at first. Wasn't really comprehending like what was happening.
Finally, decision day arrived. The IHSAA determined that the Yergler family's move was for athletic purposes, and Winston was suspended from basketball for his sophomore year.
Got a text from my dad, he said, "Hey, I'll be calling you in 2 minutes." I was like, all right, walked down to the locker room, took it, and told me, and I just sat against the locker and cried there for about 10, 15 minutes.
It was very tough when the IHSA came down originally and told us he couldn't participate. The IHSA looked at it as purely a move by the family for athletic reasons. I like to say it was a character building year. Coach Ryan Bales, his coach at North Judson, said it best. He said, "Imagine a child going to class every day, doing all their homework, doing all their assignments, doing all their reading, but never taking a test to find out how good they are." And that's what Winston went through. Practiced every day, gave it everything he had, but never got to play a game.
Winston returned to the court for his junior and senior seasons at North Judson, leading the team to a sectional championship. Following his time in high school, he began to play at the collegiate level. Winston made stops at Loyola Chicago, Elmhurst College, and Iowa Central Community College. However, ankle and back injuries ended his career. Following his sophomore season, Winston decided to pursue a position as a basketball team manager at Purdue University.
So then I was a manager at Purdue. That was awesome, great experience. Coaching staff was so cool. You learned a lot of the Division I level in a high major program. Right towards the end of my senior year, I was iffy about the whole coaching thing. And I talked to one professor. I was doing good in her class. She's like, "Well, have you ever thought about being a lawyer?" And I was like, "Okay, well, Mom always says it, and this professor says it." Eventually got into law school. moved down to South Carolina, down to Charleston. So we're in class one day at law school, and there was a fictitious case about like a coach. People were going to take sides and argue the case out, and our actual professor was going to be the one who was the judge. Well, as class got going, I'm ended up being like on one side of the room, basically arguing against everyone else. And I take like the coach's side, the athlete's side, whatever. And class ends. It was a good class. I'm walking down the street. All of a sudden, someone taps me on the shoulder. It's my professor. He like followed me. He's like, "Hey, you should be a coach." He's like, "After what just happened there," he's like, "You would have won the case." He's like, "So yeah, you could be a lawyer." He's like, "But passion was with the coach, the sports. Like, you need to be a coach. Come to my office." He's like, "We're gonna write your resume. We're gonna write cover letters. We're sending 100 of them out." Broke the news to my mom, and she just starts crying in my arms. "I can't believe you're doing this." She's like, "But you're in law school. I thought you loved law school. I thought this was it." And I was like, "Yeah, I liked it, Mom. I'm like, I don't love it. Like, I miss basketball. I miss the game. I miss, everything about it."
It was quite shocking. Having a law degree, you think your child's going to probably be pretty stable in life, pretty secure. Maybe not in law, but there's other things that can always lead to that. And college basketball, if you don't produce, you get fired. So that's pretty hard on a mom.
May, or after first semester of law school, finals, everything, came here to Ball State, interviewed with Coach Whitford, offered me the job on spot. I was like, "All right, well, I need some time yet just to make sure, I'm making the right decision." He's like, "All right, I'll give you, a week." Ended up calling him after a week, and I was like, "Coach," I was like, I was just like so scared. I was like, "Oh my God, now I'm gonna move back to Indiana," and scared to death. And I was like, I'm in law school and I'm doing well. I'm like, I can't leave. He's like, "Okay." Called Coach Whitford back the next day. I was like, "Coach, do you have that position?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, this is terrible. This is like, it's amateur. If you don't have it, I understand." And he kind of chuckled. He's like, "No, it's yours if you still want it." And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there."
It's tough to put Winston's role into one sentence because he does so much. He's constantly making sure our guys are working on their game. He checks classes. He watches film. He cuts up and edits film for us. It's invaluable what he does for our program.
He pulls strings to get players better. Like, he really wants to see everyone in the program succeed.
The people in his life mean more to him than his own life. I know that. He would do anything for anybody at any time.
I'm not here to do anything, but I want to help you. I want to see you succeed. My dream was to play at Division I level, and because of injuries and whatnot and different things, like, I never got to do that. So I want to help those guys, reach their dreams, and then reach a level that they don't see in themselves. I love basketball. Dream is to be a Division I head coach. I think I can have the most impact in life through the game of basketball.